everybody. I want to welcome you to the first show, call it what you want, of Unfiltered with Warren. How exciting. God only knows what's going to come out of my mouth. Today, I am talking to the sexiest man in print. And I don't mean him. I mean what he's doing. You've got the MGI, which model machine? I'm not technical.
This is the EVA 20x42.
Nice. Okay. The EVA 20x22. So really, this is the first show. You put the machine in, I believe, right before pandemic or about.
Yeah. So the timeline was this. We started installation early February. We finished training end of February of 2020. And in March, the first week of March, it was COVID shut down. Gridlock.
Fun. Oh, I can't even imagine that. So a couple of questions that come to mind real quickly. What were you thinking and what made you want to buy an MGI machine that does beautiful stuff like this?
Sexy stuff, yeah. So I was enamored by the technology. I actually started looking at this technology probably about three and a half years prior to buying the machine, and I love the look. You know, I've been in finishing for well over 20 years, and this was just amazing. I wanted to be able to offer this to our customers, and I also saw it as something that I thought was going to be very good to us in the future. All right, so the problem I had and why it took so long to pull the trigger, I kept thinking probably for the first 3 years, these guys have an amazing piece of equipment that does amazing stuff, but I don't see the customer base. I even said this to these folks. I said, I think you have a really nice, pretty machine that does super cool stuff that is a future boat anchor. It's going to be a really expensive boat anchor. The problem that I was having with my vision at that point was I was trying to think about jobs that I was currently running conventionally or had in the past and trying to make them fit with this equipment. And that was a big mistake.
Yeah, you got to go from scratch. It's kind of like when you move into that house and you want to fix something and then you need 2 HVACs running because the way it's set up, right? So
it's exactly like that, because you buy this new house, right, and you loved all your old swag furniture, cool stuff, right, and then you get it, and you thought it was going to work, and you realize this doesn't work in here. So yeah, it was pretty much just like that.
It's also scary. It's like, so you actually bought something that was revolutionary in our industry, which is, I think, a pretty big, bold move because it's not cheap and we don't have to discuss how many zeros and numbers there are. I've always been taught, don't buy the first car when it comes out. Let the kinks get out.
Yeah.
I tell you, in 2015 or 16, I had bought the first iGen 5 with the full kit and extra colors.
Right.
And I bought it probably the same reason that you bought it, because it's just happening. It's just so cool. I always thought that I had a bit of a vision to see what was coming because I happen to love color, emotion, and all that stuff. And I wonder if your experience was similar to mine when I bought it. And by the way, I love the machine. There's always issues, but we had some big issues when we put it in. And at first, it didn't live up to my expectations. And then I was even thinking at one point, were my expectations just over the fucking top, right? With what I wanted, like, was I getting a super machine like Superman? And it took us a while to figure it out. But printing and some extra colors and enhancing them is not the same as a machine doing layers and foils and stamps and all that other stuff. So how did you... Really, the question is, the machine came in the box, the truck showed up, and I'm sure everybody was all wet and happy and going crazy. And then they crank open the lids and they line it up and they set it up in the room, and everyone's excited because the room is clean and it's new and the blue is flashy and you're all excited. Then they plug it in and you hear the engine and you're like, oh my God, here we go. And then all of a sudden, in my case, the engine's going, the thing is going, the lights are on, and I'm going, uh-oh, what now? What'd you do?
Wow. You know, Warren, you're a fisherman, right? You're the fish guy, right? All right. So you know that saying, you opened up a huge can of worms, right? So yeah. So I guess from start, day one, day two, I was really impressed with how this piece of equipment went in so smoothly. I thought our guys, along with Konica Minolta, I thought they did a wonderful job of prep. I thought they did a wonderful job of getting it in our clean room. That said, that was just the beginning of a very rocky road. You know, now we're in the new frontier with this piece of equipment. Not to mention that there's a huge bomb that nobody saw coming with the pandemic.
Bomb bigger than anything the world's ever seen.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough. It really was, you know. There was a silver lining that the pandemic offered us, and I'll touch on that if you like. But, you know, at the beginning, here was the deal. We started working with a company called MGI, which that, in my mind, that's the technology is MGI. Then Konica Minolta, they, I guess from a larger platform, purchased out MGI. So now we're working with a lot of the folks from Konica Minolta. And that's had its up and downs, you know.
Sorry, hang on one second. Like, I mean, first of all, I think anytime company A buys or sells to company B, and then you have the new entity together, whether you're buying machinery or equipment or it's a customer, whatever, you're always in for a rough ride.
Yeah, I think you just articulated what I was trying to say very, very well. So,
but no, I think that is, the reason I said it is everyone should know, like, you just have to have that expectation in business, in life. If there's ever two mergers of companies, please don't think that you're going to walk in smoothly because the left and the right don't know each other. And then it's not even like they're merging. They have to create their own new entity with their own new culture.
Yeah. Again, you articulated that extremely well.
I'm going to keep talking to you because your compliments are just like overwhelming. It's 2 in 1 day. I don't know what I'm going to do the rest of the day. But
yeah, so you've got the machine in. We trained for 2 weeks. The pandemic starts as soon as the trainer walks out the door, basically. And now you can't go see your customers with all this really new, cool technology and things that you can do. So it's kind of like we're all sitting at each other staring, wow, we got a really nice machine. What are we going to do with it? Okay. It is a true clean slate. Well, we really used that time to get together some really cool self promos. We used that time period to train our folks. My aspirations were, we run this facility multiple shifts. And so my aspirations with a piece of equipment like that was we're not going to run this one shift. We bought it to make money, So we're going to have to create a customer base for it. Now, we were real fortunate because we have something new in the palm of our hands. So we looked at it from a positive thing. When most people were 6 foot apart, don't touch, mask, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we were headed, bro. We're sitting there going, well, we've got something to re-engage with our clients with, right? So we've got this new equipment. We started doing Zoom calls. We started getting calls from people that, hey, we saw what you're doing. We understand COVID. We'll be really careful. Can we come by and see it? So we've set up a way for them to come in, do some demonstrations, and keep everybody safe. And we were real fortunate through COVID that we were able to do that and keep everybody safe. So all of a sudden, our customers started landing jobs. And all of a sudden, we're running the machine. So to give you an example, here's Konica Minolta, and they're calling back, a few months into this. They're saying, hey, are you ready for your advanced training? Sure, yeah, come on, we're ready. Let's do it. Konica comes in, and I want to say they came in that morning around 8 o'clock. By 2 o'clock, the trainer's in my office saying, Steve, I'm going to be really honest with you. Your guys are teaching me. So it was that was good to hear that. All right, well, what are you going to do for the rest of the week of this advanced training if they're teaching you? So there was a good part of that felt like, oh wow, our guys are doing good. There was a bad part of that, like, something tells me we're going to have a lot of kinks to work out of this thing, right? And that's what it was like. So we've had it for 2.5 years now. I would strongly say that for the first year and a half of that, we worked out kinks. I think Conoco was, you mentioned it, that when you have a company sell technology off or equipment off, then that company has a learning curve to go through. I feel comfortable in saying that I think that we help them with their learning curve. Unfortunately, there was a few few hiccups as we went along, but I think all of that, it was positive for us to be able. We became self-reliant. Right? We became self-reliant. Now we have the ability to train people on that equipment here. Our operators in that room, they've learned a tremendous amount on how to maybe make small repairs. It's very similar to some of the other equipment we have here.
Just be careful. You never want to void the warranty. Anybody who's listening that buys a machine within the first year.
Yes, very wise. That was very good advice. So then our salespeople, they had some learning curves. I will say that we did get some sales training that I'm on record with Mr. Abergel for saying that I don't know if I ever told you this, but when we scheduled the sales training, I kind of felt like, man, I've been through a lot of sales seminars. I've been through a lot of sales training. And I've always prided myself on not losing myself and becoming, that type of salesperson. By the way, if I'm ever in a client's office and I leave and they think a salesperson was there, it's time for me to retire, or it's time for me to move on to another career. So that's not the goal. So I want to be careful with throwing the sales term around. That said, I was so impressed when I sat down with Kevin and a couple of his team. I was so impressed with what I was learning about reaching people with this new technology and this really cool, sexy print. As you called it, print porn. I don't know if I can say that on, but it's unfiltered. I can say print porn.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
There we go. Perfect. Yes.
By the way, I didn't create any of these words. I've learned them from others in different situations. Listen, I taught my kids real quickly, when you're little and you're in the room and you stub your toe on the bed and it's throbbing, you're allowed to scream, "Oh, fuck," in the house. It's normal.
It's normal? Okay.
You can't say that to me or your mother, but you could say it as an emotion. Absolutely.
I don't know if I've told you this, Warren, but I love playing verbal ping pong about our industry with you. It's fun. This is a fun day. But for folks that actually, if there's anybody that listens, which I think there is,
So,
dude, can you imagine them watching your accent with my Southern accent and intertwine back and forth and hearing the different verbiage? I mean, I wonder if they have to have translators for us.
I was going to say they have like a new translator out there. It's like between people and some Google Translate thing. So you came in, you learned how to work the machine. The manufacturer's teaching you. Manufacturers always have all the answers. I don't know that it's all real in the real world when you put it into play, but how did it go from, how did the salespeople handle it, right? In going to the customers, because it's one thing training on the machine. There's many different types of salespeople. If I take me, for example, if I would see this and I would get this, it wouldn't take me more than 2 seconds to walk into somebody's office and get all excited and not miss a beat, right? Yeah. But I know a lot of people see it and How do you get them to have a little bit of comfort of just talking?
Yeah, so I think that Kevin's training about the technology and about selling it and about getting folks to go in and touch before you start really diving into conversations. I think that's a big thing. I also think for the person looking at it for the first time that hasn't seen it, they probably need it. They probably need a little time to take a look and go, wow, what is this? And touch and pet, So I think that was helpful. But with our sales folks, we tried to arm them with a lot of different sexy prints, sexy samples to be able to go in and have a conversation and talk about the new technology. We compared it a lot with touch, pet. Yeah.
No, but I'm laughing because when we used to do even offset with some reticulation and UVs, and then even when we did our sample book with using the MGI machine for all this, I would go into meetings, and this is what happens. Customers, while you're talking, are just sitting there and touching.
Petting, right? Yeah.
And it's the touch that gets, I used to say to them, hey, if you keep rubbing it, a genie's going to come out. But that's what gets them going. And also, I mean, being that one in your area, if you in your area are one of the first to market with a product, you understand people that you have time, not a lot of time, but you have time to get your shit together and get out there before anyone else does.
Sure.
And you always have that advantage of having this a little longer than the other guy. The longer you have it, the more you have. You just maybe not want to share too many secrets with your local competitor until, you feel there's enough distance. But, oh my. So a question comes to mind. You do a lot of intertrade work for trade printing, right? Trade printers.
Sure.
How did the trade printers salespeople pick it up and go start to sell it? Or did your guys go with them to some of their customers right? Because that's a hard one in between from print finisher to printer to designer.
Yeah, a great question. And I would say that
you're going to tell me if I have a bad question, right? Because so far you keep saying they're all great.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It is. And yeah, it's unfiltered. So if you screw up, I'm going to tell everybody fucked up.
Please do. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I promise. But no, it's a good question. It makes me think, right? And so it was a lot of everything you just said from the standpoint of, yes, there were times when customers said, will you please go with us to see our clients and explain this? We need the help. And my wife's a school teacher, right? And I've heard her talk about how different people learn different. What I saw from doing Zoom calls, what I saw from sitting in when my sales folks were doing presentations live and then in person, what I saw was different people picked it up different ways. Some folks, literally, you give them some samples and they took off and they brought jobs back, Okay. And then there's a story of a company that I sat in with on a presentation with our rep in the Midwest, and she was working with a fairly large commercial printer. And I helped out with the presentation and kind of bantered back and forth and showed really cool stuff for them. And literally, she goes out to see this client months later, and there's a sales rep that starts looking at it. He says, I had no idea. He said, he had to see it, touch it, feel it. And then all of a sudden it spurred more questions, and he's done really well with it. So different people learn it different ways. I've seen it to where our clients have just asked us to produce some self promos for them, and they've went out and been successful with their own self promos. I've seen it where they've utilized our self promos and done well with it. But I do think it's one of those products that's being produced that the person who's buying it needs to see it, touch it, and feel it. Not because it's like drives price to a stupid point, but just to actually understand what does 3D varnish actually mean, and what actually can you do with that. And I think in a lot of cases, the limitation with what we're doing with this print is completely one word: imagination. That's the limitation, is imagination.
Yeah, no, I think first of all, I think the timing of our industry coming out with embellishments, whether it be MGI or any of the others, it comes at a time in our industry I think we needed it, right? black and white, flat, transactional, whatever. We can go through the whole thing. I always like more color. I always like more finishing. I always like more foil. A couple reasons. One, it increases the sale of the job. If you're a smart printer, you're making more money because you're making your margin every step of the way. But the end result is, I mean, it's proven statistically, and I'll get my producer to find those statistics for us because I'm not a statistician. But when you put stuff on the shelf for the end user, and there's more sexy stuff going on and appeal, the goods are checking out quicker. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to happen. We want the end product to walk off the shelf. If the end product walks off the shelf, then our customers buy more, and then buy more. Everybody buys more. So it's a great thing like that. We could go on and on just because we could duel. Next time I'll wear a different hat. First, I just want to say thank you. It is always great to chat with you, and thank you for taking the effort to make the challenges that you've had to come through them to just like what you're doing. And thank you to your customers who keep buying the stuff from you.
Yeah,
right?
Seriously, they're the reason why we still get to turn the lights on. So
Right.
yeah, for sure.
And to everybody else, I really hope somebody was listening other than me and Steve. If you've listened, if you've liked it, feel free to reach out, send some notes, send some comments, send some ideas. If you want to be on with me, because you got stuff to say that's relevant, love to have you on. Otherwise, man, just keep embellishing. That's all I can say. We love embellishment. Warren Werbitt loves embellishment. That's it for me. Ciao, folks.